technology flavour, there's a lot of themes I think that have come through in all of the presentations. And they're around relationships, community, trust, relevant content, choice, and understanding who your audience is and engaging with them. And they're very much people orientated. So I guess the message is, although technology is the enabler, the people component still plays such a vital role in how you attract and retain talent. And sometimes I think we may forget that as we get excited with all the available technology that's out there. I discovered this quote, and I've seen lots of other terrific quotes actually today, when I was doing my research, and I thought it was very profound and apt in relation to the recruitment landscape, in that it's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It's the one that is the most adaptable to change. And I guess that shows you don't have to be the biggest organisation, the one with the most money, the one with the most brains. You actually have to be the most adaptable and willing to change. So that offers us all hope, particularly as we've seen today, how the technology landscape has changed. We've seen, the use of social media. We've seen how demography's changed, how job seekers' attitudes have changed, how the way we retain, the length of time we retain people for has changed. And it's continuing to change at a rapid pace. And I guess we saw with the Google example, there's certainly one organisation that has adapted very successfully to change, and no doubt we've all got a lot that we can learn from that. Just a brief agenda of the items I'll cover, and I will keep the presentations short and sweet because, again, in listening to the presentation, there is a lot of themes and overlaps that you'll be hearing, so I probably can condense mine a little bit because the message has probably come through in some way, shape or form throughout the various presentations today. Again, we've seen this sort of slide in various contexts today, and I won't just sort of talk too much about it, but I think there's a few important things just to highlight in that, as we saw, particularly I think Ross opened with the fact that for hundreds of years we had one advertising channel, aside from obviously networking and outside relationships in which advertisers could promote their job and job seekers could connect with that job. And we also had, like I said, an inequality of power in that the organisations held all the power, which has certainly shifted, as Philip demonstrated with his presentation. In the mid-1990s, we saw the emergence of the job sites. I was working in recruitment actually for select appointments at the time, and very much saw that transition. We're still mixing between the print ad and starting to move into the online advertising space. And it certainly was interesting to see how clients adapted and how agencies adapted to those choices. But we certainly did, and for a number of years we had, although we did have some other sites going on out there, the majority of the job boards were free, that interestingly enough were eventually all owned by the media companies who obviously also control print advertising. So there wasn't a lot of change. We saw classifieds lift off the paper and come online, still all owned and generated by the same media players that we had previously. So we also had print and we had the three major job boards to choose from. So as an advertiser looking to source people, it was quite simple and straightforward. There wasn't a lot of choice. A job seeker was a job seeker, and it's whatever your preference was, really. And obviously online, they altered that and made it more cost effective. Then come sort of the early 2000s, late 1990s, and again, as Philip demonstrated with such a plethora of channels available, that we saw the emergence of social networking sites and niche job sites. They've actually been far more prolific and successful overseas for a number of years. Australia does tend to be quite a few years behind, particularly if we look at sort of the recruitment HR space than perhaps the US and the UK. So niche sites have been firmly embedded in their marketplace for over 10 years now and have been very effective. But it's probably only the last few years that we've seen niche sites start to find their feet in the Australian job market, which still is ultimately dominated by the three major media players that own the three major sites. So with this, again, it is the challenge for the advertiser is that job seekers have so many choices, and ultimately the advertisers have to go where the job seekers are, and sometimes I think that's what we forget. we're sort of accustomed to our own ways, and this is our process, this is our policy, these are our preferred channels and so on, without actually perhaps referring to the marketplace and the people you're looking to connect with. So sometimes I think bureaucracy gets in the way of sourcing these people who have, as we've seen, behaviours have changed quite significantly over time. So and certainly I think it's interesting that, yes, there is a shortage of people. I don't necessarily think there's ever been a shortage of talent. There's an abundance of talented people everywhere that are willing to learn new things, to be trained, and just as talented in their as they are. But certainly there is less of them, and it is much harder for organisations to connect with them. And I think that's what's perhaps also brought about this, oh, it's a talent shortage, it's a talent shortage. It's like, actually no, given you only had a few channels previously to connect with them, it was quite easy. Now it's challenging, and that's, I think, what organisations are grappling with. So, the easy answer is to say they're not out there, when, of course, we know they are. And they might not even be within your state or country, they might be internationally available, but there certainly is a vast pool of talent out there in the marketplace. Again, I think Philip stole some of my presentation, not my slides, but talking about content and context. And that certainly, again, I think has been evidenced throughout the presentations today, that we've got all these different communities going on out there in the market now. People gravitate towards relevant content and people that share their interests and experience. And so certainly when you are looking to advertise and connect with these people, be it the passive people or the active people, you certainly need to make sure you're in the right place. Actually, again, Philip, I seem to be referencing you a lot. Philip produced the job board landscape report last year, and there was a part of the report that seemed to indicate recruitment firms and businesses were looking to increase their usage of niche job sites. Raise your hand if you've used a niche site in the last 12 months, be it as a job seeker or advertiser. Fantastic. So certainly we are seeing niche sites emerge. I guess raise your hand if you've found that you've had a reasonable amount of success with the niche sites that you've utilised. So again, it's good to see that there's emerging channels, that people have choices that are starting to pay off. So we certainly are seeing a trend in the niche site market. So again, going back to content and context, it's about, and I guess we see it all the time, and you only need to sort of pick up the paper or go to any job site. And unfortunately, you'll see often a poorly written ad, and Ross Clements has done some brilliant analysis on how job ads are written and ways that they can be improved. They're often not written for a particular audience, they're very generic, and they're often placed in a very generalist location. Now that's okay if you are looking for a very general type person, but particularly when you're looking for professionals or specialists, you do need to step back and think about who is the audience, what are their behaviours, where am I likely to find them? And we've seen so many channels today presented, from blogs to forums to social networking sites, to sites within those, groups within social networking sites, that there's so many ways that you can access and connect with these people, but it does require a bit of thought and work to be done up front. And we've all been accustomed to, if you've been in recruitment or for a time now, and I know myself, I was guilty of it, you kind of just go through the motions. We're creatures of habit, so we keep doing the same thing and then wondering why we're not getting different results. So each time you are looking to hire, it does require a strategic approach, and it does require an understanding of the people that you're looking to connect with, and it certainly does take time. It is much harder, but then again, particularly if you're in HR recruitment, your job is to attract and retain talent. Your job is to get the best people to give that organisation a competitive advantage. So it's certainly not an area that we can afford to cut corners in anymore.